Not the griffins, you moron! The rest of my light bright pieces! My name isn't Adam Wee. Or is it? Who am I?
I have the strangest feeling that I am about to be utterly and madly carried away. Do we dare?
They're lacking a little oomph, don't you think?
Well, I think we could be humanized a bit more and a little warmer and wittier, and I think Uncle Batman's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Brian the Duke Davids. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 34 of the Schmoedown Rundown. My name is Aaron. I am your host as always. Back in the saddle, he is the Stat Man, or some call him Stat Lord. It is Frank Janisch. What's going on, dude?
I'm back, man. It's been a long time. It seems like forever. 2 weeks, I think. So it's great to be back. I listened to both of the shows that I was not a part of, and it's great to know that my only replacements could be Scott Mans and Rachel Cushing.
All right, well said. Also here is Brian Davids. What's going on, man?
Aaron, I read a strange story about a group of freshman students who thought they could hijack their history class despite having a world-renowned professor with tenure.
Okay. Also here, she's a special guest this week. Are we calling her Snake? Do we call her Sassy? I'm not sure. We'll call her the guest of the week. It is Stacy Howard. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I'm currently quarantined off in my bathroom of this hotel room because my family, I'm in Texas visiting, and they don't want me to bother them because they're trying to watch a movie. So they sent me to the bathroom to record this episode. So that'll tell you how much they love me.
She loves you Schmoedown fans so much that she will record quarantined in a bathroom. It's like it comes at night, but it's actually good. Let's jump on here. We don't have a lot of news to get into, but we do want to get into one thing, and it's unfortunate news, is that, as happens sometimes, we lose someone in entertainment, and this week we lost a titan of entertainment, someone that shaped my personal childhood and my life, and that's the great Adam West. And when I was a kid, growing up in the late 80s, the early 90s, watching reruns of the Batman 66 show was everything to me, and Adam West was my Batman, and my gateway to the character, which I still love today. Batman is my favorite character of all time. I wrote a 15-page college thesis on Batman, and we'll just leave that at that. But Adam West is a guy that never got his due, I feel like, in Hollywood. Like, he was always well respected and was always one of the nice guys, but just never felt like he got that due. Eventually he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and he started turning around, and people started turning up again. Was he turned up on Family Guy and things like that? So just wanted to take a second so we can all kind of share our feelings about the great Adam West and what he meant to us. So Frank, any thoughts on Adam West today?
I don't have too much. I wasn't particularly familiar with Adam West. Yes, I knew him as the original Batman, and I had seen a handful of episodes of his Batman, and then I got to know him more as, on the Family Guy show. But I've really enjoyed listening to everyone's thoughts on Adam West this week on various shows, and I'm just glad that someone like him, who's beloved, had a long life and contributed a lot to people's life and fandom and of Batman. So, for that reason, he surely will be missed.
88 years old, a great run. Brian, your thoughts on the late Adam West?
There's a reason Batman / Bruce Wayne is my favorite fictional character, like you, Aaron. And While Michael Keaton introduced me to the character at the tender age of 6, it was Adam West who cemented my love for the character as I devoured the 60s TV series and movie just days after watching Batman 89 in theaters. The beautiful thing about Batman and Bruce is that every actor's take on the character has only added to my love of the character. So when I celebrate Christian Bale's turn as being the best, I also credit Michael Keaton and Adam West since they paved the way and influenced modern day interpretation. So rest in peace, Adam West, and remember, folks, be more careful from whom you accept free lemonade.
Stacy, your thoughts on the late, the great Adam West?
Like a lot of millennials who are a little younger and in their 20s, my introduction to him was more through my parents. I remember growing up, we used to do like these plays and skits for a couple different organizations we were a part of, and the influence of the Adam West and Batman 66 show was very much a part of some of the skits we had. And so we used to have like a Batman skit and be like, holy gobs and goose eggs, Batman, what do you think it is? And have like the signs with the pow, ka-choon, everything. And so I was introduced to the camp and the fun and the true heartfelt wonderfulness of Adam West's Batman through osmosis, through my parents. So that was kind of how I knew what it's so different today, but you really kind of get a sense for how much fun they had and how much they truly cared about making it fun for children. And that's what I'll always remember and always appreciate, is it really was, they really dedicated it to younger fans. So I really like that.
Well, no matter if you will remember Adam West as your Batman or as the mayor of Quahog, Rhode Island, we will always remember Adam West for his humanity, his hilarity, and a guy that always brought it, no matter how campy he was being. He was always in on the joke, and we'll always remember him for that. So let's take a second to remember Adam West. So we're just going to jump right in to the team recap. It was the debuting team of DC Movie News, Mike Kalinowski and Adam Gertler, versus Team CinemaBlend, another debuting team. Now, before we get started here, we had Johnny LaQuasto and Roxy Stryer coming out and introducing Team DC Movie News. And then Adam came out in a German outfit, which I guess by today's standards would be called a romper. Not really sure. But also, then Mike came out with his Green Lantern getup, and that was a lot of fun. And this was a fun match, man. A lot of good scoring here, very tight throughout. Let's get into the scoring breakdown. In round 1, it was DC with 7 points. CinemaBlend coming out strong with 10. And in round 2, DC lands on famous actors and actresses, goes 5 of 6 in that round. CinemaBlend gets action and adventure, goes 4 of 6. DC gets a 2-point steal for Cobra, a 1-point steal for Julia Ormond. CinemaBlend gets a 1-point steal of their own for Peter O'Toole. And after round 2, it is DC leading CinemaBlend 20-18. A lot of high scoring going on. So let's jump to round 3 and see how it ended. It was CinemaBlend getting the 2-pointer in Steven Soderbergh, missing the 3, which broke my heart, with Little Giants, getting the 5-pointer, Maggie Smith. We jump back to DC Movie News. The 2-pointer, the Miami Dolphins. The 3-pointer, Batman Forever and Kick-Ass 2 for Jim Carrey, which we will probably get back to here in just a second. And they nail the 5-pointer for the victory. No stinking badges here. And DC Movie News defeats CinemaBlend in a high-scoring match, 30-25. Frank, I'm going to kick this to you first. What did you think of this match?
This was a really, really great match for two teams debuting in the league. Obviously, Kalinowski's no stranger to the Schmoedown, but for everyone else, it was their first go at it. And I thought, obviously CinemaBlend coming out with 10 points really showed that they could put up a good fight. And DC a little bit behind the 8 ball there, down 3 points heading into the second round. The second round was huge for DC Movie News. They scored 13 points in that second round, which actually ties for the most points this season. They tied Wolves of Steel. Now, something to look at here is Wolves of Steel was able to get 13 points off of 3 steals for 3 points. DC had to do it off of 2 steal opportunities, one a 1-pointer and the other a 2-pointer. So that was a little more impressive. And then CinemaBlend, usually when the team wins the first round, they go on to win the match 54% of the time, which didn't happen for them this time. So it was a good showing by CinemaBlend. It just wasn't enough to carry through because that second round by DC really kind of put things to bed, almost quite, because DC had a great, if not, well, they did have a perfect third round, and they were only the third team to have a perfect round this season. The other two teams was Rotten Tomatoes when they did it against IGN for the win, and if Stacy will remember, they did it 6 Degrees. Her and Brienne did it against Wolves of Steel, although it was a loss for them.
Thanks for reminding me.
Thanks for bringing that up. Brian, what did you think of this matchup?
Well, it was a good match. I often talk about Schmoedown trivia, and this one definitely takes the cake for the longest and most elaborate entrance, thanks to Johnny LaQuasto. And we also got the debut of the first woman manager, the bombshell from Beantown, as LaQuasto put it. So, interesting stuff there. I love the joke about CinemaBlend being put to sleep by the time that entrance ended. I also liked how Gertler was playing the silent card. So, DC Movie News has clearly put a lot of thought into what kind of team they want to be, and I'm really liking it. In the first round, I was most impressed, though, by CinemaBlend's Connor Schwertfeeder. This guy seems to be legit. He seems to be the Vejvoda of this team, although not as good as Vejvoda, but mainly in the fact that they both have very complicated last names. Random point, Mike Kalinowski, for the love of God, show your whiteboard to the camera. I cannot handle this side thing where he shows the host instead of us. So hopefully he fixes that in time for his match with Brienne. And in round 2, CinemaBlend spun animation. This supports a point that I was talking about last week with Rachel. They chose to spin again for action adventure. And regardless of how many points Rachel got last week in animation, again, it's the point that she took the category. Most people would spin away from it, just like CinemaBlend did. And CinemaBlend hung around, but DC Movie News just had a bit more firepower. However, that 5-point question, I'll hold back on my thoughts for now, but there's a lot to be said about the Treasure of the Sierra Madre question. It asked for the complete quote from the 1948 classic. They ended up giving the paraphrase quote, which was made famous by Blazing Saddles. This goes into that whole leeway to the letter argument, so I'm going to hold back for now, but Aaron, just let me know when we can kind of discuss this whole issue, because this was kind of dominating the water cooler this week at Collider Studio.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come back around later. Stacy, what did you think of this? You got two debuting teams here, and as a competitor, you kind of got to be scouting them a little bit, I would think. What did you think of these two?
I really like this match. My favorite kinds of matches that I've watched are where they have questions where they're a little more, to like the 90s kids like me. So when we got like the Little Giants question, I was so excited. I was like, yes! And you get like the Sister Act questions and stuff like that, where you're like, oh, I know this, I remember this from my childhood. So maybe you haven't seen the movies in several years, maybe a decade or so, but you remember those from when you were a kid. So I was really excited about the questions that they did get. I'm glad you guys mentioned the point winning, the game winning question. That was pretty controversial. At first I didn't know that there was anything amiss, I guess, because I wasn't familiar with the movie, but I just know badges, we don't need those stinking badges. Like you said, it's been made famous by Blazing Saddles, so I thought that they were right at first. I didn't know that there was, perhaps something different, or that it could be argued that maybe they shouldn't have gotten the question. So, controversy, you guys.
Yeah, and we got to shout out Chris Skaliski, the poor guy, in round 3 got roasted by Mike Kalinowski with the Jim Carrey in 2 comic book movies when he's actually been in 3 if you count The Mask as well. Poor guy. Poor guy. Mike Kalinowski went for his throat. But that was a lot of fun. Let's talk about the post-match interview right now, because DC Movie News, Roxy especially, were kind of vaguely calling out a team. We weren't sure who they were talking about, and then once they flipped back to Christian, he pretty much gave it away that it was Team Action is who they were talking about, which is very interesting on a lot of levels. We'll just kind of let you dig into that for yourself if you wish.
I've got a level for you. I've got a level on that. She is calling out her significant other, and basically it's an ingenious ploy to save money on couples counseling. She is now she's taking their issues into the Schmoedown and working them out for all of us to enjoy for our entertainment. And it was interesting, though, the killer seemed to call out Marvel Movie News. So it sounded like Marvel Movie News was supposed to be the original opponent in this match. Who knows what happened there, but I want to see that matchup someday too, given the obvious.
Coy Jandreau and perhaps Matt Key as a team? That sounds pretty good to me. Frank, what do you think about a possible matchup between DC and Team Action?
Yeah, very intriguing for how Brian more or less... Roxy and Ben, so that's an interesting dynamic, how that could come together as a match, what the conflicts of interest. That's certainly an interesting angle to play out in the pre-match interviews and post-match interviews and all the theatrics that could go along with it. Could be very, very interesting how it could possibly happen in the Schmoedown. So, and Team Action, as we've seen, they put up quite a fight against some good teams here, and DC Movie News, for as good as a first match they had, they had 30 points, which ties for the most points this season. Rotten Tomatoes scored 30 points when they had their match against IGN, who scored 29. So I'm looking forward to seeing that match between DC and Team Action if and when that happens.
Stacy, I'd like to get your opinion on this. We've got Team Action, who's been there before. They got a couple matches under their belt. DC now has one. What do you think of this possible matchup?
I love this matchup. I think it's a great idea. I think as someone who also dates a fellow huge movie fan, I'm always secretly curious, who's going to be the better at movie trivia? Who will really win? It's one thing to say, oh, well, I think I know more and I think you know more, but I want to really prove myself. I want to really see who could get the most points. So, this is a time where you could really say, who would come out victorious. You can see who really is the better movie fan. So I think it's great. I would be ecstatic to see this go down.
And if you guys want to research that, I'm not telling you who it is. You guys can do your own research on that. But let's talk about CinemaBlend here. I like their debut. I like these guys as a team. What I see next for them, I could see them clashing with IGN. I think that would be a great, great second matchup. What about you, Frank? How do you see CinemaBlend matching up? Who do you think they should go up against?
I'm not sure if IGN should take that match on. IGN has played a couple matches, shown what they're made of. I think CinemaBlend should do the same because I think IGN is a really good team. We've seen other teams have good debut matches and then, have that sophomore slump. So I'd like to see their second match, and if they can prove themselves again in that match, then sure, I'd be all for an IGN match. So with that said, we still haven't seen Hector and Adam in the team league this season. I think they would be a good matchup for them because as Superhero News and whatever team name they will be now, Hyper RPG or what have you, in their two matches, yes, they've lost, but they're averaging 63% correct. So, and that's right on par with what CinemaBlend did here when they answered 65% correct. So, Superhero News / Adam Hector, they need a win. CinemaBlend, I think, needs to prove themselves a little bit more. And if they can do that against Superhero News, Adam or Hector, then they can take on IGN. I like to see that match, but I think I'd like to see CinemaBlend go up against the quote-unquote a little lower level teams, not quite anybody in the top 10 yet.
Yeah, I also disagree with you. I think IGN has played up. They have proven themselves, even though they lost a heartbreaker that they shouldn't have lost. They have played up a bit. CinemaBlend, I consider them like a diet IGN, kind of a poor man's IGN. I can see them playing a team like Heroes or perhaps the debut of Marvel movie news. I think that would be a pretty interesting matchup, Coy and Matt Key, or one of their other co-hosts there. So they've got a future, though. I don't see them being a dominant team, but I see them being certainly a better team than someone like Heroes.
Stacy, am I also wrong for a 3-1 gang up here, or who do you want to see CinemaBlend take on next?
You know what? Here's the thing. I love gender mixed matches. I love when it's man versus woman. So I want to see maybe someone like the Night Sisters. I mean, you've got two dudes. Why not go against two girls? Let's see what both of them can bring to the table. And I think it'd be super entertaining. I think they both know their stuff. So yeah, I would want to see some females in the mix there for sure.
Sounds good to me. And I'm once again outvoted on this episode. Fantastic. I'm all right.
So something we've talked a lot about lately is whether questions should be judged with leeway or to the letter. Now, a lot of it depends on the way the question is worded. In the case of DC Movie News' 5-pointer, there's not a lot of leeway when the question says, complete the phrase from the 1948 classic, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. So there's really no room for leeway there. It has to be exact. The problem is the answer was the paraphrased answer, as we talked about. Blazing Saddles made it famous. The Monkees made it famous. And we've seen this a million times over the years, whether it's Sally Field's Oscar speech or, No, I Am Your Father, that's often misquoted as well. There are certain quotes that become so famous that paraphrase versions take on a life of their own. And that's kind of the case here. But in this case, Skalisky accidentally submitted the paraphrase answer instead of the actual quote from The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. So it really wasn't Mark or Christian giving leeway. It was the answer was wrong from the start. Again, Chris has so much responsibility on his shoulders, and it can happen to anyone. But in this case, the correct answer wasn't even listed per my understanding. So ideally, with a question like this, where an exact phrase is being requested, the exact answer should be given. So if the right answer was supplied from the start, I think they would have held that standard as far as being the exact answer. But because the answer was wrong from the start, I can't blame them for this mistake. Either way, I still think the best team won. I still think DC Movie News was supposed to win this match. And even though there's a little controversy here, I still think they would have won regardless. So I've got more to say about the leeway to the letter point later as another issue popped up. But Frank, do you have anything to add to the badges controversy?
Yeah, I think, as the match ended, that was the result. Okay, fine. That was the mistake happened. Everyone rolled with it. Cool. But I think if CinemaBlend wants to, they could petition. They could, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Can I make a point real quick? Because last week I talked about this, and Rachel didn't even know about this, but you can use your challenge to oppose your opponent's answer. So theoretically, CinemaBlend could have said, actually, we don't think that answer is right. We want to challenge it.
Right. So, yeah, they could have done that within the match, or I still think they could even do a formal protest afterwards, because it does, DC doesn't lose the match on this question. It just remains tied. So it would go to sudden death.
Remember when we saw that with Ricky and Elliot when they had to replay a point with Tough Beats?
Right. And Tough Beats, yeah. So, that could still happen. We just haven't heard about it. And that's all dependent upon what CinemaBlend wants to do. That's on them now. And however they want to deal with it, if they just want to take the loss, that's on them. If they want to protest it, I wouldn't be mad about it. So, and I don't think Christian could be too mad about it because, what the answer wasn't actually the answer. So I'm fine with it either way. But, those are the couple scenarios I could see happening, and I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Stacy, did you have any thoughts on the badge controversy? Feel free to not have any, because I do not.
I do have some thoughts. Let me tell you why I'm torn about this, though. As a competitor, I see where I'd be like, well, what do you mean? I mean, the question is worded this way, and I know it sounds like that, and it's pretty much the same thing, so why can't I get the point? But then as viewers, I know you're like, that's wrong, bah! So I guarantee you they did at the end of the day, it's just a fun match, and they just kind of want to be entertaining, have a good time, and maybe they want a little controversy. Maybe they want people to be like, what happened with this? And then, to have a little rivalry going on. So who knows what went through their minds? I wasn't in studio that day, but maybe it was all meant to be and they made no mistakes. Maybe they were very conscious about what happened with this. So I would think about that.
As I've said many times in the past, Christian Harloff went to the Eric Bischoff School of Promotion, and as he knows, controversy does create cash, and that is a very good point there, Stacy. Could be a controversy for the sake of controversy. Who knows?
The actual quote is, badges, ? We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges. So I don't think CinemaBlend even knew the actual quote just because the paraphrase is so famous. So they didn't have the wherewithal to challenge in that moment. Could they challenge after the fact? Maybe. I don't know if Christian would allow that. It's possible. It's something that he should address regardless in case a situation like this happens. I mean, yeah, we did see something similar with Tough Beats and Elliot and Ricky, but we learn from these things and we correct them moving forward. This is still a growing league. This is still a league that is still finding itself after 15 to 16 months. So new scenarios will pop up every now and again.
And just one last thing, there's gonna be mistakes, but as long as you're open to try and rectify a mistake and not be closed off and say that's it, it's done, as long as you're open to it, then I think that's good for the league. And and that, like you said, this is a growing league, and we'll move on from here.
We got to say this. We forgot to mention that Connor and Eric want Wolves of Steel. So we talked about potential opponents for CinemaBlend. It's hard to say CinemaBlend fast. CinemaBlend. They want to face Wolves of Steel. I think Connor or Eric is friends with Clark, so I think they've got the Wolves on their radar. And that could be an actual really good match.
Also, why is CinemaBlend one word? Shouldn't it be two? I'm just wondering.
Maybe they're modeling it after their domain name. I don't know. But
maybe. I don't know. I was like, I think it's two words. No, it's one.
Stacy, you and Brienne are known for your entrances. You get asked this all the time, but so far, what is your favorite entrance on the Schmoedown?
Oh, that's tough. Well, and I'll tell you guys, me and Brienne, thank you for complimenting us on that because we work so hard on these. We debate for hours about what we should do. We think of a million different options. We spend so far hundreds of dollars on costumes and props. So we take the entrances very seriously. And we know that it's kind of become our thing. And that's why we get invited back a lot, is because we bring that showmanship to it. So it's a big part of who we are. So thank you for bringing that up. My favorite entrance, oh, that's hard, but I guess it's got to be my singles match because it's the most recent. And it was when I was kind of on my own. Usually I have Brienne with me and we come up with these great ideas and we love doing it together. But this is the first time where I was like, all right, what should I do? What character do I want to play that portrays me as an individual and where I want to be as a competitor? So that's going to be my favorite one so far. But there's ones coming up, you guys. I mean, get ready. It is going to be epic, spectacular, show-stopping, glitter everywhere, multiple people involved. You got chairs, you got props, you got music. I mean, it is going to be show-stopping. You have no idea what's coming. So get ready. But yeah, Snake Plissken is probably my favorite entrance so far.
Speaking of your singles debut, you turned some heads last week when you beat Jonathan Voitko. Talk to me about your preparation for this match, and did this go better than you ever could have expected?
My preparation is that I have no preparation. my attitude. Yeah, my attitude towards me and Brienne are very different people. We love each other. We're great friends. We do a show together and we have so much respect for one another, but we are very different competitors. She studies a lot. She'll take online quizzes and read books and, challenge herself and try and ask for people's help and say, what should I study? What should I read? And my attitude is, I know what I know. I've seen the movies I've seen. I'm just going to go into it, put on a fun costume and have a good show. But I think a lot of people underestimate me for that reason. they see me and, they may think one thing or think that I know certain movies and I have certain strengths, but you don't know everything about me when you look at me. So it went very well, in my opinion. I was very confident I was going to win, and I did, and I kicked ass. And there you go. Yeah, it went as planned, and I had a fun time.
Frank, you had some stats from her debut. Did you want to share those with her?
Read off those stats, baby.
Yeah, I tweeted this out a few days ago that, in fact, her debut is top 10 all time. I have it as basically tied for 5th with Annie Signore. She was 11 of 13. So, and Rachel also later on, her match is ranked 8 all-time debut match. And, there's 3 women now in the top 10 debut matches. That's to go, and Clark Wolf is sitting at number 3 all time when she faced off against Macuga. So all 3 women are in very good company with each other and the other men, of course. So always chasing that Bibiani perfect match. Don't know if we'll ever see it again, but it's quite a debut match by you, Stacy. It was very impressive, and I knew it was something special as I was watching it. I just didn't know how special until I did the numbers. So congratulations on that excellent performance.
Thank you so much. I will say, though, I did have some luck on my side with one of those questions. Guys, I pulled that Commando stewardess question so far out of my ass. I mean, I had no idea. Honestly, it was probably in the back of my mind. Like, it was probably my subconscious. I knew it, and that's why I blurted that out. And I kind of did an educated guess where I was like, well, a lot of women in 80s films were like, stewardesses are kind of like a customer service type of job is what they usually were in films. So that I was, I kind of weighed the pros and cons, but I was completely shocked when they said that was the answer. I was very genuinely tickled, and the whole audience just started roaring because they were like, I can't believe she just got that right. That's insane.
Sometimes Outlaw and Wildman will play up their guesses for the show, for the entertainment of it all, but you could tell, Stacy, that your guess was completely out of left field. I was so blown away by that.
I was shocked. Everyone was shocked. Like, Christian was like, wait, what did you say? And I was like, yeah, stewardess, I don't know. What do you want me to repeat my wrong answer? And he's like, no, that's right. I was like, Jesus Christ, I cannot believe that I just got that. I was ecstatic.
Dare I say, it's kind of a Matthew Broderick pool, not as much with the stakes involved, but coming up with the question, it seems similar, like your thought process was how Macuga usually describes how he came up with Matthew Broderick as his winning answer against Harloff. It seems sort of the same thing, and I would agree, I think, with that.
And those are always the best, when it's like very genuine moments where you're like, wait, what?
I can't remember. Did you challenge? Who do you want next as far as singles goes? And was there any doubt that you were going to stick with Brienne as far as her heel turn? Was there ever any doubt in your mind, or were you just kind of playing with it for the sake of entertainment?
Let me tell you something. When it comes to storylines and everything, yes, there are aspects of it that are planned out because you know where you want to go and you know who you want to be with and where you want to end up. But I really did think about, we weighed those dynamics of like, okay, well, if we split up, then could we eventually do a match where we're against each other? And do you want to team up with this person? I'll team up with them. We'll do a doubles match, So you really think about what you want to do and where you want to end up. Because Schmoedown, they're not going to make you do anything you don't want to do. They just want you to have fun. And, that's the whole point of the game. We want you guys to be entertained and have fun. So we really think of like, ultimately, where do we want to go with this? And at the end of the day, me and Brian, we just have too much fun together. I mean, we put so much effort into it because we are partners. If I was paired up with anyone else, they're not going to, spend hours on a weekend making costumes together and, let's blow up this poster and spend $40 on it. They're not going to do that. The only reason why we are known for those entrances and try so hard is because we are that pair. We both balance each other out. So we really did think about it, and it was a struggle, but at the end of the day, I was like, I want to be with my girl. And I know she wants to be with me, so yeah.
And is there anyone that you challenged in singles? I can't remember the end of your match right now.
I haven't challenged anyone officially yet. I will say, I know that Cushing has been gunning for me. She might have told me that at a bar. We might have been a little drunk, but I know that she wants to see what might happen there. And I think she is a beautiful, smart, fantastic woman, and I would be very honored to go up against her. So I think someone that has proven themselves as a rookie is myself and Rachel. So I would like to see where that would go. But I don't know, though. I haven't officially challenged anyone. That is an idea, though. You know who I would love to go against? And this is, again, about when you want to create an entertaining match, you want to have that good balance. I always say in life there are workhorses and there are show ponies. And I'm more of a show pony, and I have no trouble in admitting that. I do know my stuff. I do love film, and I do have, a wide range of knowledge. But I'm not the serious man. I'm a little bit goofy. I'm a little bit out there. I'll have, fun answers and everything. So I would love to go against more of an everyman, more of a serious man like Dan Murrell or someone like that, so we can have that kind of play off of each other. Me and Ken have, we've joked over the years about being really opposite personalities, and he's older than me and is kind of that, have you guys seen the movie Shop Girl? Like, he always jokes that he's the Steve Martin to my Claire Danes. But we like that dynamic of he's like a serious older man and I like this goofy young girl. And so I would love to go against someone like that, where it's really that kind of opposite personalities. And I like to kind of tease the men, like flirt with them a little bit, and they'll just like give me the eye like you're ridiculous. And I like that dynamic. So someone like that would also be great too.
Now, you and Brienne have kind of changed up your dynamic, your personality in the Schmoedown a little bit. You guys came out and did the Grease entrance and the hashtag musicals kind of thing, throwing shade at the Wangers, which I personally enjoyed. But now it seems a little different, and it's a complete character swap. How hard is that to kind of pull off?
Well, again, here's the thing about what's planned and what's kind of off the cuff. When we first started doing the Schmoedown, our first match, our first round, we really were like, totally green. We were the new kids in town. We were so nervous, and we were like, let's just have fun with this. I'm sure we're going to lose. We will never be invited back. And then from there, we got a little fan base going, and we got some traction, and we won our match, and we started gaining confidence. So the whole evolution of our story arc so far is really a natural progression from what's been happening. Is that in the beginning, you just want to, you're just lucky to be there. You're like, this is so fun, and I'm so flattered they invited me. But then once you start winning, once you start doing things like the free-for-all, you're like, you know what? I can do this. I'm not the green kid anymore. I'm someone to be reckoned with. I know my movie trivia. I've, won some matches, lost some matches, but, I'm not the new kid in town anymore. I have something to prove. So really our turn as quote unquote a heel team up is, it's really just kind of what's happened as we've gained more and more confidence. So, it hasn't been hard because we're like, fuck yeah, we can do this. We're tough chicks. So yeah, it's very much something that we have really enjoyed, and we're glad that we've gotten the response that we've gotten. So we're happy to prove ourselves even more. We can't wait to compete again.
Well, I think it shows a lot of creativity and a way to take something, flip it, and make it work for yourself. That's something to be proud of, and it's not easy to do. In the way that you've both done it, I think is quite remarkable. It's not just you two were not just tailor-made to be in the sense when you first came out, it was not a tailor-made gimmick to have you guys come out and be bad, I guess I should say. Like you were the fun team dancing around and having fun, and now it's a completely different dynamic, and to still make it work and still get people behind you, that's pretty tremendous. So I have to commend you guys for that one.
Thank you so much. I love that everyone else is kind of trying to one-up us with the entrances, because it used to be you just play a fun song, you wear a Star Wars t-shirt or whatever, your movies, but we were like, no, we need to think of a theme. We need to come up with costumes. I could tell you guys a million ideas that we might eventually do, or ideas we haven't come up with yet, where we're like, oh, this is going to be the one. Because we're constantly trying to one up ourselves, and everyone else has kind of gotten in on the gimmick too, and gotten in on the fun. And so I really like that everyone else is stepping up also.
Have any competitors asked you for advice on entrances? As we heard last week, or excuse me, a couple weeks ago, Scott Mantz had asked Brienne about something to do, and she gave him the suggestion of Clark Griswold and Holiday Road. Is any competitor come up to you for advice on entrances or anything?
Oh, yeah. And I have a lot of ideas for other people. I think it's so fun to think of those things. Or if you know that someone is really into a movie and you can think of, like one of Brienne's neighbors is great at, I think he makes movie props. And so he wants to make like a car that someone can transform into. Like you know people in the industry and you know each other. And so you think of, well, what would be best for this character? Not like what random film should I tell them, but what matches them the most? What would they have fun with? At the end of the day, you just want to dress up and have fun, and entertain people. So yeah, I've gotten a few texts and like, what do you think about this? Or could I borrow this from you? I know you have this kind of wig, or because I have like a ton of costumes. So yeah, a lot of people have come up to us and we love it. We love the enthusiasm people bring. We love the enthusiasm the fans have brought. We're so flattered and we just want to keep going with it.
Very cool. Sounds great. We'll have more with Stacy in just a moment, but now we want to jump into our singles recap for the week. It was The Godfather, Drew McWeeny versus The Wild Man, Josh Macuga. In round one, it was Macuga getting 5 points, Drew McWeeny getting 6. In round two, Macuga spins sports movies, a big strength of his. He goes 2 of 4. Drew McWeeny gets comic book movies, decides to stick with it, goes 3 of 4. Drew McWeeny got 2 points off of a John C. Reilly steal, and Macuga got a 1-point steal for Caesar's Palace. But first of note in the second round is question number 1 for Josh Macuga, who played assistant coach Red Dawson in 2006's We Are Marshall. Matthew Fox was the correct answer, and it especially hits me close to home because A, that's my alma mater, Marshall Thundering Herd. I am a son of Marshall. And number 2, fun fact about the movie We Are Marshall, I was an extra. So there you go. But obviously the big controversy of round 2 was question 3, the profession of the Cleveland Indians owner in Major League. We're going to skip it for now, but we are going to jump back. After round 2, it was 14-10, Drew McWeeny. Let's get to round 3 where Macuga got his 2-pointer Hugh Jackman in Les Miserables, missed the 3 Robin Williams, and missed his 5 Peter Boyle in The Santa Claus. And it was The Godfather getting back on track and TKOing Josh Macuga 14-12. Frank, what did you think of this?
I thought it was a pretty solid match all the way through. Nothing too spectacular about the match. I mean, obviously, McWeeny had a really good second round, which was good to see. Because if we go back and look at his previous second round against Snyder, he also had a pretty decent showing. He was 3 of 4 against him for 5 points. He was 1 of 1 of stealing. So he kind of was still in that Snyder mode, not like his match against Kalinowski when he was perfect 4 for 4 for 8 points. His first round, though, is a little bit better, well, a lot better than it was against Snyder when he only answered 2 questions. He answered 6 this time, so a little more in line with his previous first 2 matches. And then if we look at Macuga, he pretty much did what he always does in the first round, has a mediocre first round, and he usually follows it up with a pretty solid second round. Didn't happen here. Also, we saw that same thing happen with him against Dagnino, so it was odd to see that happen 2 matches in a row. But the one thing that really surprised me with Macuga is his third round performance. This is his second worst third round performance. His first one obviously came against Harloff when he got TKO'd. He answered no questions right. This one just won for that 2-pointer. Very, very disappointing to see because he was on quite a tear answering questions in the third round. And that's what kept a lot of his matches close. That's what allowed him to get to 7 wins in 13 matches. So, unfortunate showing in the third round. And Drew didn't have to do any work in the third round. Once again, this is his second TKO. His first came against Kalinowski. And I'm curious to see how McWeeny goes forward because he's not being tested in wins, per se. In his loss against Snyder, yes, he was tested. But that's his only big test so far. And if he's going to be someone that competes against the top talent in the league. I'd like to see him a little more tested, and that means he needs to play tougher competition. I think now he's there at that point. But, when he gets there, it's going to be interesting to see, because he's only had to answer one 5-point question in his 4 matches now. So he doesn't have quite a feel for the difficulty. Yes, you can watch the matches and see those questions, but when you're there under the lights, we all know it's a lot different for people. So in the end, it was a pretty solid match throughout, and hey, I'm glad McWeeny got the win because I want to see him go forward. Unfortunately for Macuga, who's now 7-7 after 14 matches, I don't know how much longer he can go. Obviously, we heard him say he's going to take a step back. At this point, he's been asked 198 questions in his career. That's slightly ahead of Riley, who's at 189. And Macuga has now earned 176 lifetime points, just ahead of Riley, who has 161. So Macuga going to be venturing into teams. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, the match went as I expected. I knew Drew would get back on track, and I forgot to mention this during our DC Movie News point, but last week DC Movie News did that sketch where they united the league, and that's what kind of tipped me off that DC Movie News would win their match, because I didn't think that they would do that sketch and devote that much time to them if there wasn't a victory in the cards for them. So McWeeny, though, got back on track, and as Frank kind of suggested, this wasn't the most impressive win. I did not get a sense of dominance from Drew like I wanted. I feel like he isn't quite at the level that I think a lot of us thought he was or want him to be. He's certainly very good, but he's a bit vulnerable at times. There are questions where I'm just surprised that he's gotten them wrong, such as the Caesar's Palace question. I mean, that is just the most likely guess. That is the best guess when it comes to a question like that when you consider the other options. So I'm not as bullish on him as I once was. Now, jumping back to the beginning, I've got a variety of points to make since we kind of skipped ahead to the end, but Macuga used the word fighting in his promo, and it keeps rubbing my ear the wrong way. I just feel like fighting or fighters is just not the right terminology to use in the Schmoedown. Player, competitor, contestant, I'll take anything but fighter. Now, Christian was wearing a Star-Lord t-shirt during the match announcement, or as he was calling the match. I thought for a second at first glance that it was a Stat-Lord t-shirt. I was getting ready to DM you, hey, where's my Stat-Lord t-shirt? But yeah, that's a good idea moving forward. And I love that Drew is starting to fire a bit more shots in his promos. Last time when he played Snyder, he called out how he was probably the first one to fire Jeff. This week he fired off that Josh Macuga is absolutely the best guy who has ever brought a wheel out for him to spin on a show. So nice stuff from Drew there. And Macuga, though, paid respect to McWeeny. He said he's super dangerous because he takes the categories that most people would pass on. And this is a point I've been making for a while, and it's a point that applies to Rachel Cushing as well. She is willing to take those categories that most people would spin away from, such as animation. And sorry, Aaron, but McWeeny waited for his cue this week, so his early entrances were a fun but short-term trend. And he's got a new t-shirt as well. The Wild Man has a new kind of Hulk-inspired t-shirt, Hulk Hogan-inspired t-shirt. So, Aaron, that might be your Christmas present. Just forewarning you now. I've got it in my wish list. I've got it in my shopping bag as we speak. And there was a lot of chaos during Macuga's entrance. Mark and Christian were both talking at the same time as Macuga's theme song was playing. Ellis plugged the new t-shirt that Macuga had on, but then he gave Macuga a hard time for plugging it as well right after he did it. So it was a very chaotic moment, a lot of people talking all at once. And Macuga's impersonation of Christian Bale, as people know, my favorite actor, but Macuga's impersonation of his outburst on the set of Terminator Salvation in response to that question was just it was awful. It was completely awful. Not only did he misquote him, but he didn't even do the Bale Welsh accent. So next time, Macuga, please try. And it was interesting in round 2. Drew deferred. So Josh spun first. He spun animated. And of course, as I've been saying, he spun away from it. Something Rachel Cushing would not do. That is why she's so dangerous. One thing Josh did do, clearly he's been listening to this show, he wisely moved the ticker to family films instead of leaving it on animation. So he did not spin family films. He spun sports movies, which was one category to the right of family films where the ticker started. So again, competitors, Stacy, if you get a category that you don't want, when you go to respin, move the ticker to a category you do want, as odds are you're going to get anything but the category that you're trying to get away from. Odds are you might even get the category you want to spin as long as you put the ticker on it. And like you said, Aaron, we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to showgirls and exotic dancers. I'll save that. But yeah, it wasn't the prettiest of matches, but I'm glad McWeeny got back on track. And look, I just want to see the Beast and the Godfather play before I die. Hopefully it happens. Hopefully it happens this year. But I just want to see that match. And again, as Frank said, he has not been tested, but I'm seeing a little bit of vulnerability in his play when it comes to questions like the Caesar's Palace question. So it's good that he's got some confidence back, but I really want to see him dominate someone in his next match, potentially against Mark and Draco.
Yeah, Macuga, a bit of a gatekeeper in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, as they would call it. Stacy, we didn't get your take on the match itself. What did you think of Macuga versus McWeeny?
Again, it's that whole a workhorse versus a show pony. A lot of people underestimate Macuga because he is more of a showman, but he does know his stuff, and he is willing to go there. He is willing to fight the good fight. Like, if he thinks that a question should be worded differently, or like when he wanted to challenge the whole showgirl exotic dancer question, he will absolutely stand up what he believes in. And so, yeah, I was excited to see kind of that really competitive spirit from the match. So that's what I really liked when I was watching it.
Yeah, it definitely had that. It seemed like Macuga was a little bit more subdued in this match, too. And I gotta say, as much as I kind of harp on McWeeny for his ill-timed entrances, which I find hysterical, but I gotta say though, we started to see some breaking of character from Drew McWeeny. A lot of cracking up in match. People were making him giggle left and right, and I thought that was pretty awesome to see. Mark made him about die laughing in the chair when he made that one joke, and it was cool to see Drew kind of loosen up a little bit, and that's part of the game. That's part of the fun, is to loosen up and have some fun, and it was cool to see that from the Godfather, who had been one of the more serious competitors, and we've seen that with Rachel as well. They loosen up a little bit and seem to have a little bit more fun.
Another Brian Davids key to victory, besides moving the ticker to the category that you want to spin on your respin, get caught up to speed on all the classic Superman films. Chris Skaliski pulls from those things like crazy, even in non-Intergeekdom bouts. So, Stacy, get caught up on the 70s Superman films, the 80s Superman films, because they keep popping up like crazy. And as far as Josh Macuga goes, Frank, you mentioned Josh Macuga's record is now 7-7. I believe his record at Collider is now 3-6. How many of those matches are singles versus teams?
So I actually just redid those numbers. He's now 4-6. My math was one off. So he's now 4-6. Yeah, at Collider he's 4-6. He was 3-1 in that 2014 tournament, which brings him 7-7. Now, what was your question again?
But what is his singles record at Collider?
That's his singles record at Collider.
Okay, so he's 4-6 in singles. I think Macuga, as he indicated, he's done with singles for a very long time, and he said it best. You know, he needed to win this match because it's kind of a step up match. It's kind of a next step match, as he put it. But he lost it. He keeps losing these next step matches. He cannot make the leap for some reason. He's like a team in basketball where he can't quite make the finals, but he's not bad enough to make the lottery. He's kind of like an 8th seed in the NBA, to where he's always going to be in the thick of things, but he's never going to advance to the finals or get bad enough to drop down to the lottery. So it's wise for him to take a step back, focus on teams, because I really don't think he's got much of a future in singles. I don't think there's a belt in this future, as much as I hate to say that.
Also, if you go ahead and check the Facebook page, I put up Macuga's performance against ranked competitors. He's now, against competitors ranked in the top 10, he is now 2-4. So not too great of a record against ranked competitors in the top 10.
There it is. But let's get to a couple bullet points in the match before we move on. We have to talk about this stripper showgirl question for Major League from round 2. Josh answered stripper. That was not even one of the multiple choice options, which Josh did not opt for anyway. But there was a challenge, and Christian was hesitant to let him challenge for it, but the challenge happened, and it was overturned, and Macuga was awarded the point for saying stripper over the correct answer, which is Vegas showgirl. It's very clear in the film that is it. I have a problem with this answer. First of all, it's wrong. It's completely wrong. And you go to a challenge to get it right, and it's still wrong. And I don't understand. Someone's got to walk me through this, because I don't understand this, how this was marked correct at all.
The definition of a showgirl: a woman typically attired in elaborately decorated costume who performs in a musical or theatrical production. Now, Las Vegas showgirls, this is a specific term because it's a specific thing. They cannot be reduced to showing their boobs to crowds of men, as Macuga suggested. An exotic dancer or stripper, as Macuga had in mind, can't become a Las Vegas showgirl with ease or overnight. However, a Las Vegas showgirl could become a stripper overnight. That shows how much qualification there is to become a showgirl. Now, with Vegas showgirls, there's a height requirement. They have to have long legs. There's a certain kind of beauty that they look for. They also have to be trained in ballet and dance. Most importantly, the lavish costumes distinguish showgirls, as they wear headdresses and feathers. They almost look like ostriches. There's elegance, there's grace, there's choreography. Also, showgirls aren't necessarily topless. Some shows are, but many are not. Furthermore, there's an accomplishment. There's a bragging right to becoming a Las Vegas showgirl. And they take offense to being called strippers. Strippers have stolen terminology from showgirls for many years now and applied it to themselves. Even exotic dancers was a term stolen from real showgirls, including the term showgirl. So Macuga acted like a Las Vegas showgirl just shows their boobs to frat brothers, and that's completely false. But he challenged, and it was awarded to him, as strippers were deemed equivalent to a Las Vegas showgirl, since leeway is generally allowed in the Schmoedown. However, that leeway was not granted in the case of IGN and the Ferris Bueller question. Leeway was granted, obviously, in the case of DC Movie News, even though it was an exact quote. So, as I said a few weeks ago, if you're going to allow leeway, that has to be your approach moving forward. You cannot be to the letter one match and then lose the next. You have to be consistent. So as I said a few weeks ago, the Clammy Hands initiative needs to be their approach moving forward if they're insisting on judging things to the letter. But this just set us back completely. So once again, this is an incorrect answer. Leeway was given. Leeway was given in DC Movie News. IGN has a valid reason to be upset because, as I said earlier, the question dictates the kind of answer that you're supposed to give. What is the exact quote? There's no leeway allowed there. In the case of Ferris Bueller, what was his key to faking out his parents? That's not asking for an exact quote from Ferris Bueller. So yeah, Clammy Hands was correct, but the question allowed some room for wiggle room. So they've got to figure out whether they're going to allow leeway or be to the letter, because so far it's been all leeway except for IGN. So I don't know. Drew should have won the match regardless. He was going to win the match regardless, but Josh should not have gotten this challenge overturned. So hopefully they find an approach to take moving forward. Aaron, further thoughts?
I just have to throw a disclaimer out there. This is a family show. If you are going to do your own research on stripper versus showgirl, safe search on. Proceed. Well, the hot take is always, well, it didn't affect the outcome of the match, so it doesn't really matter. I disagree with that, because one day it will, as we've seen in the past, and then it will be a big deal. So how this continues to happen, I don't understand. It's like the great Paula Abdul once said, we took 2 steps forward and we took 2 steps back. So that did not land. All right, well, when I heard that, as a big fan of the film, I understood the difference, and they even make a joke about it later on in the film when they talk about her being a stripper as opposed to a showgirl. So I don't know if maybe that was possible in the overturning body thing they did there. I'm not sure, but to me it's a wrong answer. It should not have been overturned. Those two professions could not be more different. I am not judging nor condemning either profession. Whatever you want to do is fine, but to me they couldn't be more different.
No, a Las Vegas showgirl is an accomplishment. That is something that people train and work years to attain. You could walk into a strip club and become a stripper overnight because that's the kind of audience that they are catering to.
Fair enough. Excuse me, Frank, before I get to you, Stacy, did you want to weigh in on this showgirl stripper controversy?
I agree with all the points that were made about the differences between what's a Las Vegas showgirl and what's a stripper. I was a dancer growing up. I did ballet, tap, jazz, everything for 16 years. I mean, I had been doing it my whole life. So a lot of my fellow dancers have gone on to dance on Broadway. They're dancers in LA, and some are Las Vegas showgirls. As you said, a Las Vegas showgirl is someone that performs in a show that is Broadway-like, choreographed, high production value performances that are elaborate, and you instantly recognize who they are based on how they're dressed, their headdresses, everything. You're like, oh, that's a Las Vegas showgirl. But a stripper is someone who gives a gross guy in sweatpants a lap dance. There is a big difference between that. But again, I can see where I guarantee you in that room that day there was, accusations and arguments just flying about the room. I'm sure there was a ton of discussion about what they should do. And sometimes, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what they're going to decide. But, I wish that they had gone with, no, it's Las Vegas showgirl, not a stripper. As you said, there was even an argument about it in the film, about the difference between a stripper and a showgirl. They should have gone with that and not given too much leeway. So I can't make any decisions. I can't, I'm not the rule maker there. So we just got to move on with it,
I just want to say, I'm learning so much about words through the Schmoedown, whether it's clammy hands, sweaty hands, stripper, exotic dancer, showgirl. It's really been a treat these past few weeks to learn about new words. It's been great. like I'm about to say is I agree with everything you've said. I will say from the onset that I thought Macuga should definitely have challenged it because I didn't know the definitions, so I thought, yeah, challenge it. I didn't really know the difference between a showgirl and a stripper and what have you. So I was like, yeah, that's a great use of your challenge. It worked out for him, and I thought he should have been worthy of the point. But now learning about words, I agree that he should not have been given that point. But it is what it is, and like they said, we just have to move on and deal with it.
Guys, plus the judge rotates every match, so one match there's going to be one ruling. The next match, depending on who is sitting in that judge's chair, is going to rule completely differently. So they've got to find their approach, generally speaking. Do they allow leeway, which they've done for the most part the last 16 months, or do they call everything to the letter? They've got to decide.
Well, I'm happy that this show could educate people on the difference between strippers and showgirls. Kids, you can tell your parents that you learned that from the Schmoedown Rundown every Saturday on SK+. We have educated you on that. And, of course, as it goes in the Major League movie, Jesus Christ still can't hit a curveball. I'm actually going to skip ahead a little bit to the end video. Before we got to the credits, there was a short behind-the-scenes video.
Dude, you have nothing to worry about. Believe me, I'm a mastermind. I don't know trivia, but I know scheming and talking shit. And I'm going to be in your corner, and that's all that matters. No, don't worry, don't worry. I've been planning this thing for months. Christian Harloff doesn't have a fucking clue. Not even the Schmoedown Rundown with all their theories. They're not gonna see it coming. It's gonna blow people's minds. No, trust me. Just trust me. I'm in complete control.
Where the second I heard that voice, I knew who it was. I knew it was Ricky Hayberg. We saw Ricky talking on the phone to somebody. We don't know who it was. We're not sure. He thinks we don't know here at the Schmoedown Rundown. He's probably right, because I have no clue. But Frank, do you have a conspiracy theory here? Who the hell was Ricky talking to on the phone?
Oh, I have my suspicions. I for sure have my suspicions. And, those pieces that we get once in a while like this, whether it's, we see the DC Movie News joining up and forming the league, or this little bit with Ricky, I really love this kind of thing from the Schmoedown. It really adds a lot more to the Schmoedown for me. So I thought it was very, very well done. I thought it was pretty hilarious. And yeah, I'm gonna hold back on who I think it is. So yeah, Brian, we'll just leave it at that.
By now, people have heard this little soundbite with Ricky Hayberg at the top of our show. We put it in there for people to hear to lead off the show. Ricky wisely plugged the Schmoedown Rundown because he can spot fine quality entertainment. Regardless, though, Drew McWeeny said in his post-interview, he said specifically that he needs a hype man. So he knows that he's not the greatest as far as talking trash and putting on a show for people. It's not for everybody. Some people just want to show up, answer their questions, and go home. So I don't blame him for wanting a hype man. Now, Ricky, he's now a manager. He made that very clear when he resigned from Play. I said for a while, I've been saying for a while, that they need to find a way to utilize managers more effectively, whether it's Finstock, whether it's Ricky, whether it's RB3. They're kind of the forgotten element within this league, and I want them to do more backstage sketches, and they're starting to do that. They're starting to be a bit more kayfabe, just like we saw at Spectacular last year. We're seeing sketches the last 3 or 4 weeks, so this is one of my favorites so far, and here's what I think is going to happen. I think Ricky was talking to Dewberry. I think Ricky is going to pair The Godfather and Dewberry together. Drew and Dewberry, you could call them Drewberry perhaps. They are going to be the newest team that Ricky is then going to manage. That way The Godfather benefits from Ricky's mic skills.
Hot take. Stacy, what do you think? What do you think Ricky is planning? Do you know Ricky at all? And what do you think is he planning here?
I plead the fifth on all of this.
So Frank and Stacy know things. Well, Aaron, what do you think is going to happen? But again, the fact that it was included that Ricky wasn't talking to me? The tail end of the Godfather's match, that indicates quite a bit from my perspective. So Dewberry is no longer paired with Ricky. Dewberry and Godfather would be a great team. And we know that Ricky has often been a great mouthpiece on behalf of Dewberry, and the same could be the case for Godfather, while they would form a potent team. Drewberry would be very potent.
All right, before we move on to our team previews, I have to throw it to the best-looking host on SK+, Aaron Turner. Aaron, take it away.
We interrupt this amazing episode of the Schmoedown Rundown to bring you this news. Do you like what you've heard so far? Do you like the Schmoedown Rundown? And of course, why wouldn't you? Do us a favor. If you are listening on iTunes, please rate and review the show along with all the other shows on the Schmoes Know feed. If you are watching via YouTube on the SK Plus channel, be sure to like and leave a comment. We would really appreciate that, and it will help out all the other shows on the channel, such as Outlaw Nation with John Roca, the Harloff Podcast with Christian Harloff, The Wanger Show, among the rest of the shows on the channel. Something new for everybody every single day, so definitely check out the SK Plus feed and the Schmoes Know iTunes feed. And now back to the best looking host on the channel, Aaron Turner.
Alright guys, let's jump into the team preview action this week. It is what I would like to call late to the party week. In the team match, it is late to the party. Robert and Vanessa versus Team Action, Ben and Andrew, or some call him Drew. We're not that cool, so I'll stick with Andrew. Frank, I'm going to start with you on this one. Who you got?
So I ended up picking Team Action over Late to the Party, even though I'm big fans of Late to the Party and what they do. Sorry, Robert and Vanessa, that was my pick.
All right, what about you, Brian?
Despite being our peers, relatively speaking, I think Team Action will break up the party regardless if they're early, on time, or late. Team Action causes trouble wherever they go, so the cops could always break up the party too. You just never know. But one thing I do know, Team Action will win.
Stacy, are these party puns doing anything for you? And who do you have in this match?
They're doing a lot for me. Thanks, you guys. But this is tough, you guys. Team Action, Ben and Andrew, they're friends of mine. I've been on their show, Action Movie Anatomy, several times. But here's the thing about the Schmoedown. You can't just know a lot about one topic. You gotta know a little bit about a ton of topics. And Team Action, yeah, they know all about action films, but what else do they know about, really? And I feel like Late to the Party, whenever I watch their watch-alongs, they're like saying those answers for each one. They don't even hesitate. So I'm going Late to the Party with this one.
Sassy Stacy coming in hot. Normally I would go with Team Action via flyby after the match, but hold on. Negative Ghost Rider. The pattern is full. And I'm taking Late to the Party as well to upset Team Action. One for the home team. But let's jump to the singles preview, as it is Tim Franco of Late to the Party, double dose this week, versus Matt Atchity of Rotten Tomatoes in his singles debut. This one's not going to be as easy. Frank, who you got?
Well, when it was Tim Franco versus Robert Meyer Burnett, I was pretty confident I was going to pick Tim over Robert Meyer Burnett, but then they got switched to Matt Atchity. So I'm going to have to go with Matt Atchity over Franco. Sorry, Tim.
Matt Atchity has been serving up fresh performances ever since he went on Handsome Harloff's Highway Diet. However, I'm going to go with Tim Franco, even though I've seen more fresh performances from Matt on tape than I have with Franco. I've got kind of a feeling that some rookie or beginner's luck is going to happen with Franco.
Okay. What do you think, Stacey?
Again, this is tough, but you know what? I'm always rooting for the underdog, and I really love that Late to the Party, as fans, have created, an entire thing of their own and are getting in there on the action. So I'm going to go with Tim. I'm rooting for him. I was in his position as well, and I just think it's going to be a fun time. So Tim, go for it.
I'm on Team Janisch on this one. I'll split the difference with Late to the Party this week. I think that if you're trading Robert Meyer Burnett, who is like Godzilla, and you trade it for Matt Atchity, who's like Mecha Godzilla, it doesn't bode well either way you slice it, because they're both Godzilla. So I'm going to take Matt Atchity. I want to see Matt do well in teams. It's no offense to Tim. It's just I want to see Matt do well in this league. I think he could be a future champion. So I will take Rotten Tomatoes, Matt Atchity serving up a fresh performance.
Yeah, so I just want to say, for people who are not familiar with Late to the Party, and people who I know in the past haven't been too kind to newcomers, they want to see people they've seen before. But let me tell you, Late to the Party, Robert, Vanessa, and Tim, when they compete this week, they do the fans justice. They represent the fans very, very well. And I think after this week, I think they're gonna have a lot more fans after this week, and I think that was gonna come through despite the results of their matches. So all I'm gonna say is look forward to these matches for real, because I think we're all in for a treat.
All right, guys, before we get out of here for this episode, we've got Stacy Howard here. We want to talk more to her about her Schmoedown experiences and what's going on and where the sassy part came from and all this kind of stuff. So let's continue our conversation, and then we'll get out of here. Stacy, thank you so much for joining us, first of all, and taking time out of your family trip there in Texas to join us live on location from a quarantined area. We'll just leave it at that. I guess something I wanted to ask, you came up with the Snake Plissken thing. Are you a Carpenter fan? Do you enjoy John Carpenter films?
What I do, a lot of people, because Carpenter was, of course, big in a decade that I wasn't even born in, huge 80s films, huge in the horror genre. My brother loves those films, and my dad as well. So I grew up, I did watch them growing up. Probably saw them far too young. Probably saw things that I should not have seen as like a 6-year-old. So I remember being entranced by what was going on screen and things like I just went to a midnight screening of The Thing at the Vista. It's this fantastic older theater in LA. And you watch his movies on screen and you're like, this is a filmmaker. It's not someone who's like, oh, let's get my friends so-and-so together and we'll just put this thing together. Like, he wanted to create grand cinema for, the horror genre. And he wanted everything from music, directing, cast. He wanted everything to be just as much of a high production value as any Oscar movie. He wanted that for that genre. So yeah, I love Carpenter. I love what he does. And so whenever I had the opportunity to do a solo match, I was like, what should I dress up as? What's gonna bring to the table what I want to, portray in my match is like, I'm a force to be reckoned with. And I was like, Snake Plissken, no doubt in my mind. I have to go with that. So I got myself an eye patch. I already had a leather jacket, and I went with it, and I had a great time with it. It was a lot of fun.
Two quick facts real quick. Number one, Aaron Turner's favorite director is John Carpenter. Aaron Turner's favorite movie is The Thing. So double win for you there, Brian.
When you watch movies now, do you find yourself watching more intently because you never know when something might come up in the Schmoedown?
Yes. The answer to the question is absolutely 100% yes. If I see something on Twitter, if I see a news bit coming up, if I have to cover a movie for my own podcast, and we'll do like look on IMDb and say who's the director, what's the budget, who was the star. I pay much closer attention to names, dates, songwriters, everything, because I know it's come up to where I'm like, I know in my mind, I know the answer to that, but you have to know it in that moment. You can't just kind of think about it and say, oh, well, I can picture their face. No, you got to know their name. And so I've been much better, and it makes me a lot more nervous, actually, that you have to retain all that information, for sure. Pay much closer attention.
So I was wondering, we know that Brienne was very eager to get into singles. What was your enthusiasm towards things? I'm not saying like you were dreading it, but I'm just wondering what was your level of anticipation for a singles match?
I was super excited to do it, and especially with some of the feedback we've gotten, and we do read a lot of the comments, read some, the Facebook, Twitter threads, Facebook comments, YouTube comments, stuff like that, and I'll see these people saying like, oh, well, this girl doesn't know what she's doing, who's this redhead? She doesn't know movies. She doesn't know answers to any of these questions. And I'm like, hold on there. Let's all take a pause, because I think I can prove myself. So whenever you first get into the game and you do start getting that feedback from outside sources, it makes you eager to go out there and show your stuff. So yeah, I was super eager to do it. I was very excited. And every time, it's just a big honor that they include us. Me and Brienne, we're not professional movie reviewers. I don't work in the entertainment industry. I have a regular full-time job. I just love film. And, Brienne is a full-time mom. She has 2 small children. So we do what we can to make up for that fact by just being like, we're going to have fun with it. We're going to dress up. We're going to go out there and do our thing. And we genuinely do love film. So we just want to prove ourselves. We want to prove that you don't have to be a 40-year-old white male who knows everything about Star Wars to like win something with movie trivia. You can be a 27-year-old sorority girl from Texas who just watched a couple movies growing up, So you just want to show that there's a variety of movie fans out there. So yeah, absolutely, I was excited to prove myself. And I was glad I won. I was really, really proud.
The Schmoedown is evolving and improving every single day. As a player, how would you improve the game, whether it's seeing the question on the screen or having a comfortable chair? Because Christian Harloff listens to this show, and he's always looking for ways to improve this game. In just 15 to 16 months, this game has improved significantly, and sometimes we don't really notice it because we're watching every week, and we can't see those changes every week. But if we took a few months off, you would see how much he's done to change this game. So as a player, though, what would you do to change the game? What would you like to see added?
Oof. This is something that I know won't happen, but me and Brienne have worked so hard on our entrances and props and costumes and everything. If they could just like give us all a little stipend to like help us finance these entrances would be great. And I'm not saying that's what I require, not at all. We're happy to do it and we have so much fun and it's completely worth every penny. But you know, there are times where I'm like, oh dang, if I could just get like $100 more, I know I could like buy a really great costume for this versus just trying to make a little janky one. And in my mind, I'm like, they didn't give us like a budget. You know, they didn't give us like production value budget and be like, have a costume department or something. But I know that's not going to happen. So I know that's a silly answer. It's very unrealistic. However, it would be amazing. And I'd be so, so thrilled if that can happen.
I ask this question to every competitor that we have on the show, and it's only appropriate to ask it here. Have you ever been recognized outside of the Schmoedown, or excuse me, have you ever been recognized out and about somewhere for the Schmoedown? Has anyone ever come up to you and be like, holy crap, you're Stacy Howard from the Schmoedown?
I have, yeah. So I've gone to a couple, and it always happens at movie theaters every time, of course, you know, because I'm at the movies a lot. And actually, last time I was recognized was at that midnight screening for The Thing. I'm gonna be such an a-hole right now, and I do forget the fan's name, but I've seen him a few times out and about. I saw him at the New Beverly and first screening of Hateful Eight, and then I saw him at the Vista, and he always is very sweet and comes up, hey Stacy, I'm so-and-so, do you remember me? I'm like, yes, of course, how are you? So I always tell people, if you do recognize me in real life, come up and be like, hey, Stacy Howard, good job on the Schmoedown. I'll be like, yes, high five, but I will always talk to you about movies if I have the time. So yeah, absolutely. I've been recognized and it's very flattering. You know what? Every fan that we've met has met in real life or interacted with on shows like this has been just genuinely very friendly and very gracious. So especially if you have worked to kind of create a rapport with us, if you will tweet us and say, hey, what's your opinion about this? Or great job, what do you think about this? If you just want to have like a genuine conversation and start out that way, that's how you guys, get people on your show. That's how I've called into a ton of other shows, is that we have that, I guess Twitter friendship is what you want to call it. So yeah, for the most part, really positive, and we're very, very thankful for that.
Well, you know how else you support Team 6 Degrees and everything they're doing? Buy their merch. Go to their new TeePublic store and buy a shirt. I bought a shirt this week. You go buy a shirt. Support Team 6 Degrees. That's a good way to do it. Just throwing that out there.
So yeah, go to my Twitter, SOHoward2012. It's a pinned tweet, and it's the link to our shirt store, and we have tons of great designs, and we had a lot of fun coming up with those. So there is one with just my face on it. There's one with just Brienne. There's one with both. There's lots of different options. Personally, I like the one where it's me. But I can't wear my own shirt, so if someone could buy it for me and wear it, and then I can look at it, that'd be great. But I can't wear it myself because that's too meta. Can't do that.
Our wonderful guest, Stacy Howard, where can you be found online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at SOHoward2012, Instagram at Stacy O Howard. Of course, check out my show with Miss Movies, the wonderful Brianne Chandler. It's on Hit or Miss Movies on YouTube. Our show is called 6 Degrees of Feature Film. You can check my singles debut match out on Collider's YouTube channel. I dress as Snake Plissken. It's a good time. I could only see out of one eye that day, so I am limited, but the audience looked great. I had a good old time there. And yeah, we have a match coming up, and it should be a lot of fun. And the costumes are going to be insane, you guys. A lot of plans went into this, so marching band. I'm just going to say that. No, not really, but maybe. You don't know. You can't know. But do you know? I don't know.
Frank Janisch, thanks for coming back. Appreciate it. Where can you be found?
I'm on Twitter at FrankieJ29, and keep a lookout for the Schmoedown.com recap of the Schmoedown the week that was. It's been absent for a couple weeks, but it will be back.
Very nice. Brian, where can you be found, sir, and what do you have going on?
You guys can find more of me, Brian Davids, on Twitter at BDF331. Check out my TV film podcast at filmschlubspodcast.com or wherever podcasts are found. I have interviews coming up with the Leftovers co-creator Tom Perrotta, Better Call Saul writer Gordon Smith, Better Call Saul actor Michael Mando. Special thanks to Shane Bowman of HeisenbergChronicles.com and Clint LaJeunesse at Floyd Pinkster for all their help with artwork, as well as Ray Ora. And special thanks to Stacy Howard for paying the $29.95 for hotel Wi-Fi while she's on a trip to Texas just to be on this show. Stacy, you don't know how much we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you guys. You're so sweet. I'm so honored to be on your show today. And Brian always says I talk too much, so I apologize if I have word vomit at some point. I do tend to go off on a tangent at a lot of times. But this has been a great time. You guys are fabulous. We're all fabulous. I'm so excited.
Oh, don't worry about talking too much. We have Brian Davids here every week.
Of course, as always, you can find me on Twitter at ATTitanium, where I really don't interview anybody famous. I'm just there giving hot takes. I will see you guys next week. And of course, every Saturday, SK Plus, this show. Give us a thumbs up, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you next week.